What's up, guys? This is OmegaLiar, and today I'm actually bringing you a team deathmatch where I just destroy the other team. And I think it's a really fitting setting to do my first tips and tricks commentary. And for those of you who are new to my channel, and I know quite a fair bit of you are, if you're speaking to the beginning of Black Ops, then you might be wondering what exactly I do in this. And basically the idea is I just talk about, I look at guns, I look at the way they work, I look at their fire rates, their recoils, everything about the gun, and what setup I think works best for it, and generally speaking, the one I naturally flow towards. I guess we can start with perks, because that's a very general thing, it doesn't come down specifically to the gun, but for the sake of a rushing class, there's a few things that you want to have. Some of them are not necessary, but in general, everything is very useful. So starting in the tier perk 1, or perk tier 1, there's a couple of options you have. Now, I see three prominent options. The first of which is hardline, because when you're using the MP7, you're going to be running around a lot, and you're going to be trying to pick up kills. If you run hardline, I remember this. If you run hardline, it comes later in the game. If you run hardline, then you will be able to pick up a lot of very small kill streaks very quickly. And you also, naturally speaking, have a better chance of picking up the bigger ones as well. So everything is sort of a little bit easier when you run hardline. I am running it here. I'm not running it along with lightweight, and it works very, very well. But that's not the only way you can do. I think lightweight is, out of all the perks, probably the least useful, because yes, you get to move around very quickly, but at the same time, SMGs have basically the fastest movement speed as it is. So moving around quickly is not necessarily an issue. For this, I would suggest using Ghost, because I know most of you probably don't have it yet, but essentially what it does is makes you invisible radar while you're moving. And if you're using an SMG, chances are you're not camping in the corner. Chances are you're not going to be sitting around in one place for too long. And you'll notice in this gameplay, I really don't camp at all. It's a very rushing gameplay. I'm constantly moving, constantly trying to put myself in the better position. And it all works out in the end. So I would recommend Ghost, Hardline, or both. It's really up to you. In the second tier slot, there's not too much I would really recommend. Toughness works well, cold-blooded works well, mainly cold-blooded to stop the hellfire drones, because they can really take you down. And if you're constantly standing close to your enemy, if you're running around with an SMG, you are the most likely to get hit by a hellfire drone, because they attack the closest thing to them that's detectable. So cold-blooded can be a good option with the rushing class. And then but again, you can also just drop the second tier entirely, because nothing is all that significant. However, another option is Scavenger, as always. Replenish your grenades, replenish your ammo, all that great stuff. Now, the third tier perks. There's a lot of really good options here, but I think the outstanding option is Dexterity. Because what Dexterity allows you to do is allows you to do a lot of things that are involved in rushing faster. The most important by far being you recover from sprint faster. This is the reason that a lot of people use steady aim in Black Ops, or excuse me, in Modern Warfare 3. This is the reason why I wanted to use lightweight in Modern Warfare 2 looking back. And this is the reason I use steady aim in Black Ops. But basically, if you recover faster from sprint, when you're constantly sprinting around, all it means is, and I've seen the speed that it goes, it's essentially like you're never really sprinting as long as you have the reaction to start shooting. It's a very, very quick recovery, significantly faster than in Modern Warfare 3. I can promise you that. And it becomes very, very useful. Now, the other benefit you get if you use Dexterity on a rushing class in general is the fact that you climb up ladders faster, you climb over obstacles faster. And what that allows you to do is to get to areas, get to the enemy, get behind the enemy, do whatever you want. And you can get to the position of advantage very quickly without having to worry about being caught off guard. Because I'm sure a lot of people have, at some point in Modern Warfare 3 or Black Ops, been caught going over a wall and having it take forever, or going up a ladder and being caught once you get to the top. I think the best example is probably on Seatown, when people climb the ladder to the main building. I'm sure everyone has died there quite a few times, but if you had dexterity, the chances of that happening are much less likely. So I think dexterity is by far the best perk for that spot. Um, Again, it's up to you, but as far as rushing goes, you really can't go wrong. Now, let's talk about gun attachments, because this is kind of significant. And I think for rushing's sake, there's one very important thing, and that's the laser sight. SMGs have decent hipfire spread as it is, but the fact is you can make it better, and you should, because they kill very quickly from close range hipfiring if you have the right attachment. So I think laser sight is a must, and if you are going to use a second attachment, you have a lot of choices. You can use foregrip to reduce recoil, and it does a pretty significant amount, but I wouldn't really recommend it because the MP7 is fairly light recoil as it is. You have the option of using a sight, but at the same time, MP7 has good sights, so I wouldn't recommend that either. I think if you were to use a second attachment, it would have to be silencer. Again, if you're rushing, the spawns can be pretty crazy at times. Lots of action goes on in this game, so people are constantly spawning in. And the last thing you want to do is get caught off guard or caught behind someone getting in behind you because they're showing up on radar. So that's sort of what this class is built for. Now, obviously in this gameplay I'm not using it, but the game is new. This is what I would use, and I do intend to use this at some point in the future. So that's the main idea behind the perks and attachments. You want to be fast. You want to have an advantage as much as possible, and you want to play and run around the map to make sure that you have the position of advantage. Now, there's a few other things that come into this class, and because I don't have too much time, I won't get into all the details because not all of them are important. But the fact is, the kill streak choices are. And in a rushing class, I'm going to assume that not everyone is an amazing player. I know some of you are, and that's great. You can choose to ignore this, but I think the best kill streaks you can run is UAV, and then you can either do Hellfire drone or counter UAV, or you can run a lightning strike, or really anything along those lines, because what that allows you to do is get a lot of kill streaks very quickly. Some help out your team, some help out you, and some get you kills. Now, the last thing I want to touch on, because I'm out of time, is the equipment. And you'll notice in my class setup that I'm only using a frag grenade. And the fact is, that's not what I would recommend, it's only what I had. I would recommend that you use either a bouncing Betty to cover your tracks, and you can just throw it down any random spot and it could possibly get a kill, or a Semtex, and I think Semtex is probably the better option there. If you use Semtex, then you can obviously use it. It's a quick blowing up thing, or C4, really any of those rushing type equipment. Now, obviously, I chose to get rid of my tactical equipment. You can switch that around. You can choose to not use anything lethal and just use tactical. Shock charges work well. Concussion grenades work well. So you have a lot of option there. But I think you should only use one because getting the extra perk really does help. And that also means skipping an attachment on your secondary. The thing about the secondary is it should only be a last resort. You shouldn't use your secondary unless you really need to. Again, I recommend a Beretta. It's a much better gun than the 5.7 or any of the semi-autos, really. I haven't gotten to the full auto yet, but as soon as I do, I'll let you know if it's better. But the Beretta is a very good gun, not just for secondaries, but in general. It gets fast kills up close, even though it's a 3-round burst, because it's got pretty much no fire rate cap in between the bursts, and on top of that, it can even pick up long-range kills. Plus the regular set of secondary attachments, you might want to get rid of that and get rid of one of your second doubled up perks. Use an attachment on your secondary. I would recommend, if you're using the Beretta, laser sight, extended mags, or silencer. I think this is silencer. I'm not entirely positive, but I'm pretty sure this is silencer. And then you can throw in a piece of special equipment, tactical equipment. So there's a lot of ways you can approach this, but I think if you follow these general guidelines, you stick to the game style, you'll probably find yourself to be very successful. Now, you also have to keep in mind map choice. This is a class set up for medium to close range maps. Long range maps, you'll find yourself struggling. Yes, the MP7 is a good mid-range gun, but it starts to struggle a lot, especially with its 5-shot kill at long range. So play to its strengths. use the perks that play to its strengths, use the attachments that play to its strengths, and I think you'll do well. So if you like this video, as always, comment, rate, subscribe, and I'll see you in my next commentary. More tips, more kill streaks, more everything coming up soon. So stay tuned to my channel, give me a subscribe, and I'll see you in my next commentary. Thank you for watching.